Piano Works has been going since July 2015. We opened the Piano Works Farringdon first. It's a Grade 2 listed Victorian warehouse. The idea came from America. There are concepts in America. Alan, who's our founder, saw a concept called Howl at the Moon, and it was basically a dueling piano bar where they took requests from the audience. Very sort of student bar-oriented operation. And when Alan approached me, he knew he wanted to have two pianos on stage, but he knew that it was a bit cheesy in the American market, so we wanted to translate that idea to the British market. So we came up with the concept of, rather than calling it a dueling piano bar, it was a non-stop live music request, audience-led concept. And the whole idea behind that is that it's almost like a human jukebox where you have request slips at the table, you write your name, your song request, your table number, the band embarrass you, point you out and say that this is your song request, they play your song, you sing along with your friends. We opened up, there was nothing like it in London or in the UK at all, and people love the concept because it's always ever evolving, music tastes are changing the whole time, so every night is different. There's always a different repertoire that's being requested, which is where it sort of came from. Since then, we've opened a second venue in Leicester Square called the Piano Works West End. I would say that when we started, it was very much a seated experience. And we were very sort of food and drink led, so it was quite equal balance. And as the demand grew and as the volume of customers coming through the door grew, and the business was sort of taking off, we started to find that our later dinner sitting at 9 p.m, people ended up having people dancing and their buns hitting while they're trying to have their dinner. So we scaled down the food operation and really scaled up the bar, drink and vertical drinking-led operation. So we do have a very busy dinner operation, especially on Thursday, Friday and Saturday nights. And we'll typically do, we also have a brunch operation. And we'll typically do 200 to 300 dinners on a Friday or Saturday night, and sort of 200 to 300 people for brunch. But we turn the venue capacity about 4 times a night. We can hold 400 people at any one time, and we will put typically about 1,200 to 1,400 people through the door in any one given night, which means from 7:30, 8 o'clock, we've got an 80-meter queue, and it stays that way probably. I mean, we're talking pre-pandemic here. We've been closed for nearly 15 months. But it will stay that way till typically 12:30 at night. And we built brunch as an occasion purely. Our concept behind brunch is Saturday night during the day. And the whole reason why we created that is that we couldn't physically fit any more people in on a Saturday night. And that's where the idea for Saturday brunch came from. And from the moment we opened them, we were doing 200 to 300 covers in the daytime. So it's all grown organically, but it's based on the demand and trying to give people what they want. I started working in the West End in 2003. I worked in a venue called Mezzo, which is in Wardour Street, which is one of the most iconic venues in London at the time. But I've noticed that over the years, customers' expectations have evolved. Customers evolve, new generations come through, and I think they demand more from their experience. Gone are the days where you could, lease a square room, put a DJ at one end, a bar at the other, and sell overpriced drinks, and customers would be happy with that after getting thrown out. People want added value. The music is we spend about 11% of our top line revenue a week on live entertainment and providing world-class musicians. And customers expect that sort of level of investment and added value if they're going to come to you. If you're just sort of punting out average drinks and not really putting much thought into the entertainment, you're really going to struggle to compete in today's market. Customers used to come out far more frequently but spend far less. Nowadays, they plan a big night out once every couple of weeks, so some people once every month, and it's a really big occasion. And they will spend a lot more, but they expect a hell of a lot more from their experience in return. Yes, I mean, a barrier to growth for us is live music talent and musicians. So for us, there needs to be, the city needs to be a certain size, and there needs to be a certain pool of music talent. But fortunately, London is, one of the sort of cultural epicenters of Europe and the UK. So we're in no sort of shortage of demand of musicians. We have musicians coming through and auditioning every week, but it is certainly important. But I can see, certainly when you go up north, and I've visited cities like Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool, they've got a much more embedded live music culture. And I think that there are certainly the musicians in those cities to be able to hold our concept. Incredible. I mean, there's a major buzz in the atmosphere with our customers. Our social media engagement is through the roof. Our teams are really excited to be coming back. We managed to open Farringdon for 2 days in December. We opened on Friday the 11th and Saturday the 12th. I've never seen anything like it. We had, at the end of the night, we had customers in tears and the band in tears. Our staff was so emotional. I mean, these guys haven't worked for a whole year, over a year now. This is their trade. It's a passion. It's something that they work their lives towards. So for them to be sort of have their audiences taken away from them, it's a very difficult thing. A lot of them have been through a lot of sort of psychological difficulty dealing with that, and this feels like the light at the end of the COVID tunnel, where life can resume to normal and they can get that buzz and that energy back in. And we're all, on a Saturday night, the atmosphere in here is absolutely electric, and we're all buzzing off the energy. So we've all missed it a lot, and we all crave it. We've run several campaigns over the course of the pandemic, but one of them was safety measures, where we put together a system of, we had a spray arch that would disinfect customers coming in. We had a Purifog machine that would disinfect the venue. We did more than just having hand sanitizer bottles on the tables. We were going above and beyond to try and show the government that, our venues are the safest places people can be in. I mean, during the height of the pandemic, only 3% of transmissions were coming from any food service setting. We've tried to show that we can go above and beyond, and that we can provide the safest setting. That we have air handling units that change the air 12 times an hour, and those are the safest places. But what I would say that we're doing differently to many other operators is that we are listening, and I'm not saying all operators aren't, but it's been a very difficult year, not just for operators, but also for customers. And I'm listening to what customers are telling us and the feedback that they're giving us, and they're frustrated about 1.5 hour time slots in pubs for drinks tables or food tables. these are the first occasions that people are having together since the start of the pandemic. Everybody is cash strapped, not just businesses but customers alike. So we're doing a double your bar tab offer. We're doing limitless table booking times because we believe very firmly that you give back, you get back, and you get back in loyalty and in terms of bookings. And since we've been promoting the fact that we're doing double your bar tab, we're not reducing our drink range. We're not doing 2 gins rather than 15. We're not doing 1 vodka instead of 10. Everything we sold pre-pandemic is on offer and available. And actually, we've increased our product range, and we've launched a pink drink category, a low and no alcohol drinks category. So we're trying to give, at the bottom of the ethos of how we've always run this business is listen to your customers and give them what they want. There's no secret to that. You know, it's just listen carefully and give them what they want. Because if you don't listen to them, then they don't come back to you. They vote with their feet. The demand for experiential concepts has really ramped up, and you see the sort of birth of concepts like the Piano Works, like Flight Club, like Bounce, Swingers. I remember we were all joking about the name Swingers when that first came on the scene, but they came on and they've dominated the experiential market since coming in, along with all of the other names that I gave. So people want escape room concepts. For us, we're not really in the competitive socializing market. We try to provide an entire experience under one roof. So we start off as a cocktail bar and restaurant with very quiet piano vocalists, and then it evolves into a live music gig, and then it feels more like a club where you've got the pianists are doing, reggae, R&B and pop mashups, and they're doing 2 or 3 songs remixed. It sounds more like you've got a DJ playing, but it's a live jam session. And, customers, when they come to places like ours, where they get all of that for the same price as a DJ and nothing else, they become a lot more discerning. They want that value for money, and it's not just enough to have a banging sound system and a DJ. They want an experience. They want something that they can put on their social media, that they can tweet and put on Instagram, and it's all about having Instagrammable food and drinks and having an experience which people are filming and sharing on their social media, so that if you're clever, actually, your customers and your word of mouth is your strongest promotional tool, and that's what's really evolved the sector as a whole over the years, is the sort of birth and of social media and the age of sharing, and people wanting to be almost miniature influencers themselves. I watched a film when I was younger called Groundhog Day, and it was about a guy who woke up every day and did the same thing. And the point is that in this industry, you meet people from all walks of life. It's very transient. You can never judge a book by its cover. I've had bar and floor teams, and I've had artists and actors and people who are training doctors and people who are doing, economics at LSE, and, you have all walks of life, of people who are the, next generation of future talent. And you have a really wide and wonderful variety of people that you work with, but also wonderful customers who are out to have a good time. And I always say to people, our business is about making memories. It's not really the food, and the sale of food and drinks is really subsidiary to the memories that you're selling people and the things that the sort of times. And that's what I love about our concept, is that, you know, music I've always found wraps around an era. Whenever I hear a song, I always remember a different period of my life when I've had a familiarity to a song. And I see people remembering having reunions and having, you know, meetups or hen parties or birthday parties where they choose a song that's special to that group, and it has a meaning that resonates only with those people. And I just love that, because I love having the ability to be able to bring joy to people and help them make memories. Yeah, I've got to quote SpongeBob at this point and say, I feel like Mr. Krabs, and I say customers. But you know, we've been closed for nearly 15 months. We've had no cash through the business at all. You know, for us, it's a do or die time, and it's crucial that we reopen strong, and that our customers support us. And give us the ability to get back on our feet. So I'm really looking forward to welcoming people back, seeing those happy faces, giving our musicians and staff paid employment again, you know, getting people socializing again, getting people back together. You know, I've been saying to people, I've noticed over the months of lockdown that the enthusiasm on Zoom calls has kind of drop down, and I always say to people, I don't think the remote working culture will actually stand the test of time. Well, not certainly a completely remote working culture, because you can't have a company culture over Zoom. People need that FaceTime. They need the real interactions. And you know, I've seen a huge spike in energy from the teams, knowing that we're going to reopen. And you know, I say to them, we're getting the gang back together, and you know, there's a real sense of energy. I'm just so excited for that. I've noticed a few trends that were taking place prior to lockdown in terms of customers' attitudes. I think that they're going to be accelerated. There was a trend of sort of low and no alcohol. There were trends of also like hard seltzers, because it's all the alcohol without the fat, so all the drunkenness without the calories. You know, I think there's also a sort of question of ethics. People want to see that you're trying to be sustainable, that you're sourcing sustainable products, that you're using non-plastic straws, that you're trying to cut down your impact on the environment. I think this is going to grow a lot, but I also have a strong belief that the two last major pandemics, you had the Spanish flu in 1910, and that was followed by a decade, the Roaring Twenties, which was a decade of hedonism. I leave out the fact that it was followed by the Depression in the 30s, but it was a decade of hedonism and going out and partying. People have been repressed for 15 months. The appetite to go out is big, and the appetite to really let your hair down and go for it is enormous. We opened in December, and people were not allowed to dance or sing, and our 2 nights that we were open was like playing a game of human whack-a-mole, because the groups were jumping up in the air and we're having to go down. That group would jump up and say, please, we don't want to be fun police, but you just please stay down. And that was my whole night, was just spent asking people to sit. So, you know, they're absolutely up for it, and I can't wait to see it. There are two things impacting nightlife culture, and I would say one element is the sort of how powerful residents are. And it's not directly nightlife culture, but I kind of wish that people would be a bit more accepting that if you live in a city centre location and you're surrounded by late night venues, you've chosen to live in the centre of London, and your noise complaints and the things that you do to make operating businesses virtually impossible, it's not really fair that you've made that decision to have, to have no travel to work or to have a great location, that you try and destroy the sort of vibrancy of the area around you, because councils are voted in, and neighbours are the people, the residents of the boroughs are the people who vote for the councillors. So they are hugely powerful, and they're constantly wielding that power over us. But for me, I also think there's an element, when you talk about culture, there are so many great operators out there that work really hard to run their operations safely and to provide that safe space and fun and joyful occasions, that they get let down a lot by not such responsible operators or customers that don't appreciate how much hard work there is. So in a way, I just wish those businesses would not use street promoters to bring people in off the street, because if you go to areas like Leicester Square, where are other businesses, it's horrible. You have people trying to poach people from your queue, you have people trying to bring you customers and take the door revenue for it, and it really turns British people off going to those areas, because it turns them into tourist traps. And when I first came to London, before that culture developed, that nightlife, street promoting culture, Leicester Square and the West End were a great place, and they've kind of, the only area that's retained its vibrancy is really Soho, whereas the rest of the West End, I think, has been in major decline for many years. The city has opened up, there are many operators moving into the city, and you don't have those promoters in the city. So for the British market, young professionals, they're avoiding the centre of London and the West End now. They'll go to Soho, but they certainly won't go to Leicester Square, Piccadilly Circus and other areas around the West End, which I think is a great shame. Fortunately, everyone's in the same boat. We've had to take on over £1 million of debt, of borrowing in order to survive. Like all other businesses in our sector, we're heavily leveraged in debt. It means that you really you have to hit the targets that you put forward, and that's what I mean when I say it's do or die. And at the moment, with no solution to the rent problem, and having one landlord that's been amazingly supportive and another landlord that has been virtually excommunicado, no communication at all, not for both businesses, but for one business, if the landlord doesn't play ball. And for me, they've got to see that, all landlords have to see that having a tenant that you support is far better than having an empty venue. So I just really hope that the customers support us, and I'm confident they will. We have amazingly loyal customers, and I'm just hoping that both of our landlords will be as forward-thinking in the long run. We have put together a political campaign which is gaining a lot of attraction, which is asking the government to consider introducing the Australian rent model. But the point is, a lot of landlords are very forward-thinking and have been hugely supportive. So you can't. I don't take away the pain the landlords have felt. They operate businesses themselves. They have to make money. There's various different, pension schemes, all kinds of groups that of landlords that need that money. But I think in order for this to move forward, the pain needs to be shared. It can't all just be lumped onto one party. So in a way, I think intervention is needed because it's crucial that for the landlords that haven't been forward-thinking enough to be understanding or at least open up that dialogue of conversation with their tenants, this will force their hand. And a non-mandated code of conduct is not the answer, because that's just giving people the choice. It's like having two kids at nursery and saying, play nicely. In a way, it has to be mediated. So I really hope that there's a solution that can ensure the survival of all businesses that have had a very, very rough year. The best moment of running this business was a couple of years ago, and we had the song request, Don't Look Back in Anger. And when it came on, the piano vocalist who was on was a guy called Kaya, who is just a phenomenal, he's a force on the stage. And he screamed, and I'm going to keep my language clean, but get your effing phones up in the air. And honestly, 400 people all took their phones out, put their torches on, and were singing, oh, Sally, and they were just putting their phones through the air for the whole song. I mean, it was just incredible. Every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night that we have here is unbelievable, because you have 400 people joined together in song, singing at the top of their lungs, arm in arm. So it makes your hair stand on end when you watch it, especially if you're sober and you're not in it. It really is a moment. But that was the absolute peak. It felt like I was at Wembley at a major concert or an Oasis concert. It was incredible. It sounds old and boring to say this, but I just love when Hey Jude is requested, because most people see it as a sort of depressing song, but when it's sung by 400 people and it's better, and then it's insane. It's my favourite song to hear. So I want to hear that. But if you're asking me to spoil out the latest Justin Bieber song, sorry, it's not going to happen.